Hey, everybody. Gail Craft here from the Empowering Process podcast. Today's episode is Survival is Not Enough with my special guest, Sally Green. Sally is going to share her story of growing up to believe that her role was that of a wife, a mother, a homemaker, and not so much more. And what happened when she actually spent some time to dig deep and decided that it was time for a change in her quest for self improvement, for self education, and her desire to find something meaningful in her life. You'll love this episode with my special guest, Sally Green.
You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Craft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Craft.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Gail Craft from the Empowering Process podcast. And thank you so much for joining me again today. I have a pretty cool chick. Her name is Sally Green, like the color. And Sally is the Vice President of Author Development at Action Takers Publishing. And she might talk a little bit about what that role entails, but that won't be until the end. Welcome, Sally.
Hi, it's great to be here.
It's so much fun to be here. So, I do want to say we're going to talk about um, living life and not living life, right? And so, does that kind of put it into a nutshell,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
right?
I did that
So,
for a number of years.
for forever. So, I'll tell a little bit about me and being the same way, right? And honestly, I had a bunch of different tiny wake up calls in my life before I had the bomb dropped on me. But the first was I grew up being told no to many of the things that I wanted to do as a child and as a teenager. Oh, that's too hard. You're just going to get married and have babies. Right, right. Oh, no, you're not going to college. You're just going to get married and have babies. Right? No, you're not going to do this as a career. You're just going to get married and have babies. And so I left high school, went to work, got married, had a baby, and was divorced. At 25, I was in the shower alone with this baby. And that's when I felt like I stepped into the world of being an adult. And I was on welfare. And I thought, this ain't the life for me and this child. And so that pushed me into working. And honestly, by the time I was 28, I was managing a high profile firm. I owned my own house. I had a new car, had another man in my life. None of that would have happened if I stayed on welfare. Right. But it was that moment in the shower when I felt in control of my life. Right. Um, and and honestly, I don't know about you, but I know I was told I was responsible for everything, including my divorce. I sat there at an event one time and a woman sat next to me and she said, well, it's the woman's responsibility to keep a family together. You failed. Right. Oh, thank you so very much. It makes me feel really, really great. Right. I had two words for her. They weren't happy birthday.
Well, the thing is, I think, people back, I don't know, when we were younger, that generation raising us, that's what they were taught. That's what they believed, and that's what they project. I had the same exact thing. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to work. And my mother, they wouldn't pay for me to go to college because you're just going to have a kid. You're going to have kids. It's going to be a waste of money. We're
Right.
not paying for you. And
Right.
so I went and found a job that they would pay my college. I worked in a company. I worked full time, and I went to college part time at night because I wanted to prove them wrong. And
Yeah.
it took me 8 years to get my 2-year degree, but I worked my butt off just to prove, and I always wanted to work. I remember and they were talking about this because Latara yesterday was talking about how when she was younger, she wrote a letter to the senator about something. And I said, I remember sitting down to write, I was like maybe 8, 9 years old, sitting down to write a letter to the president of the United States because I wanted to work. I wanted to make money and I wasn't allowed to. And I thought that that was horrible. I wanted a job, at
Right.
9 years old.
Right.
And so, my whole life has been, and I was the only girl in my family. So um, I was expected to be the caregiver. I was expected to do the house cleaning. I was expected, and I think about like what what I've done in my life. I started my own house cleaning business. When I was in my 30s, and that's what I've been doing for 28 years. And it's like, is it because, and that's what woke me up during COVID. I had that, shower moment, mirror moment when you wake up and you look in the mirror and you look at yourself and say, holy crap, what the hell have I been doing my entire life? I'm messed up. And something clicked. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. And I had that clarity. And it's the first time in probably 30, 40 years that I stepped into, you know, my purpose or whatever it is. But I
And
had that
and so
mirror moment.
so let's stop there for a moment, um, because none of us have a purpose, right? What we do have is a desire to experience and expand. Our purpose is to experience living this life, whatever that means, right? And so stepping into your purpose is really stepping into something meaningful to you,
Correct.
right? Because people are looking, what's my purpose? What my purpose? Calm down. there's, there's not this miracle pill, right? That you take. There is a connection, right? That we can get into, and it's when we drop what that moment in time in 2020, the big freeze in 2020 was all about. It was an opportunity for mankind, for the human race, to stop the hustle and the chaos and to sit down and really connect with who we are, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
And in doing that, get curious and question. And so that's what is happening here. The curiosity of like, well, I can't do that anymore, or doing that isn't fulfilling anymore. And I admit that it's not fulfilling anymore. And you start to get into your circadian rhythm, right? Because that's what I found was like, whoa,
Mhm.
this is how I work the best, right? You get into that rhythm and say, okay, now how do I keep this rhythm for everything that I do in my life, right? And and so for some strange god awful reason, you did what? You signed up to do what?
Well, the first thing I did was starting eating healthier.
Mm.
That was my first thing to do because I was like, you know what, that whole garbage in, garbage out thing. Um, and then I started taking online classes. I turned off the television and signed up for a whole bunch and paid for online classes, which is something I hadn't paid to do anything for myself in probably since college, you know. And I got into a group of people and I was offered the opportunity to write a chapter in a collaboration book. I didn't even know what a collaboration book was, but I knew I wanted to hang out with these people because I met them online and it was during the pandemic and they were all cool. And so I wrote a chapter in a collaboration book, and it was 150. There was 150 authors in this book, and all of these people were highly successful business owners and coaches and actors and actresses, and me, this little house cleaner from Connecticut who had no no connections, no email list, no business, and I'm thrown into this world with these people, and I was like, I love these people. These are the people I've been looking for.
They're my people.
Yeah. And so I sat here. I mean, this book is huge. I sat here one Saturday afternoon. I opened up the book And I found each person on Facebook and sent them a friend request. So I was like, I just want to be friends with these people. And that's what started it all. And I connected with, probably 90 to 100 of them that accepted my invitation. And then I was messaging them and say, hey, we're in the same book together. What do you do? And it was just starting that conversation that changed my life.
Right.
And Linda Sunshine West was one of those people that I connected with, and she said, "Oh, I'm doing a Saturday weekly networking event. Come, you're invited to come. There's no charge." So I started attending her networking events. I wound up hiring her to help me create my own coaching business, because I was like, everybody's a coach. I might as well be a coach too. I had no idea what I was doing. So I started researching and taking classes and trying to figure out how to be a coach. And she was doing 2 books, the collaboration books. I joined her 2 books, and the rest is history. And so it was stepping outside my comfort zone. It was saying yes to me. It was putting money um, into my teaching and learning and um, really saying, I don't want to live the life that I left behind. I was in that hamster wheel every day, getting up, doing the same thing. And it was a life that someone else had picked for me. It wasn't something that I was wanted to do. And when I woke up that day, I tell you, it was March 25th of 2020. And I woke up that morning and I looked in the mirror and I was like, holy crap, what have you done to yourself? I was 40 pounds heavier than I am right now. And I was a mess emotionally, spiritually, physically. And I just knew that I needed to make a change. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I knew I needed to do something differently. And so I said to my daughter, she was living here at the time, and I said, let's just go for a walk. Went for a walk and we came back. We went through the cabinets. We were like, we got to lose weight. So we went through the cabinets. We threw out, tons of junk food, everything, cookies, crackers, snacks. I gave up alcohol, and that was it. And it was just being focused on wanting to change, wanting something different, and not wanting to go back and live the life that I had been living in that hamster wheel and
Right.
doing the same thing over and
Right.
over and over again.
Right. Right. And for me, so I stepped up, went into business, I married again, and I had what looked like the perfect life. So even though I made started making choices on my own, I still didn't know who I am, right? I still didn't know what that meant. And so there was a lot of personal development that I avoided doing, right? So I was still on a hamster wheel. I just was on a bigger wheel, right? Right. And so, and we fool ourselves and thinking this is what success is, right? And so I had the house with the picket fence in the burbs. I mean, we would rent a plane, and my husband would fly down to Martha's Vineyard just to go swimming, right? A very decadent life, and it was miserable,
Mm.
right? Miserable. And so when you talk about finding your purpose, right? It's finding who you are and making choices that align seamlessly with that. And when you start doing that, your world shifts. Your world shifts. So here's the danger. So and I had no idea I was going to go down this path, Sally. But here we are. So here's the danger in the your awakening process, because you're on an awakening journey. You're involved with a lot of what I call coaches or gurus. They're not sages, but they're coaches and gurus. I think out of all of the people I've met, there's maybe one sage in that group. Um, and so you're learning tools and techniques for tapping into who you are. The danger is once we wake up, and you're waking up, you've woken up to this, and there's more awakenings. You can't fool yourself anymore, because when you do, karma turns around and goes, "Oh no, no, you've had this lesson. I'm going to give you one that's going to punch you in the face," right? Because you've already had this lesson. Right. So don't forget the lesson.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Don't go back to sleep. Right.
Well, it's not a straight line, and so you will go back to sleep. I still go back to sleep every once in a while, and I am pretty connected most of the day, most of the day. But so talk a little bit about what it's like to um, be on this journey that you're on. So what are some of the things that are different in your life, um, and and why? There's so many. Where to begin?
Um, Number one, my routine. The way that I live my day-to-day routine has changed drastically. Um, and then just the way I think about things, the mindset, living for today, having goals and dreams finally, and writing them down, having, you know, really sitting down and taking notes. Like every day I'm writing, and, I never did that before. Uh, it's just, it has been a process. My life has changed, and it's the work that I'm doing. It's the people that I'm connecting with. It's talking to people on these Zoom calls, or going, I flew to Vegas for the first time. I was on a plane. First time I ever went anywhere by myself. First time I'd been on a plane in over 26 years, because my husband and I, we're just making it here. And if our vacations, would take a 5 or 6 day vacation during the summer, but we would just drive to Vermont and go to a nice B&B up there, and then come back and relax. We never went, and we didn't have the money to go anywhere and vacation. And so when I had the opportunity to go, because of the networking and all the people who were speaking, and all of this, and being thrown into that world, has just been like, holy cow. So I went to Vegas. I went in March. I went to San Diego to a huge networking event with all of the people that, the actors and actresses and business people that I've met on these Zoom calls, that were, a lot of them were part of that first book that I was, and I got to meet them in person. And
Hmm.
so that was like mind blowing. So a lot of things have changed. A lot of things I'm doing that I would never have 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago even thought of, that I could do, or that I could be. I was getting up every day, going to work, coming home, cooking dinner, making, doing the laundry, going to bed, and doing it all over again. That was it.
Right. So there is a difference between a rut and mindful routines. What happens to, so let me talk about me, because I don't want to say what happens to us. I have to talk about me. What I know about me is, I was going to college, I had a home, I had a full-time job, and I had a husband. And I still found time to be with my friends. How did I do that? I literally the night before would have the towel, the bathroom stuff set up, my clothes, my hair stuff, and then the coffee pot. And I would get up and I didn't have to think, right, in the coffee pot, and then making sandwich. My husband made sandwiches for the kids. And so I would just get up and get in the car and go, get in the car and go. Well, that's fine until it's not mindful anymore. And then it's not a routine, it's a rut. Even though it saves its time management, right? In order for me to do all of the things that I wanted to do. But it, I didn't shake my world up. And so one of the things I know you do, because I know who you work with, one of the things that I work with people on is to do something a little bit scary every day. And I don't mean, oh my God, I'm going to jump off a cliff. No, I
Hmm.
mean, you're comfortable taking this route to work. Take a different route, take a scenic route, take a longer route, leave a little bit earlier, leave a little bit later. Maybe you don't want to do that, but do something like that different. Go for a ride to nowhere. That was always my favorite thing to do. I still love it. I go on road trips across the country with no real goal in mind, but to make it to the West Coast. Right. And I think I'll take the northern route. I think I'll take the middle of the country route. Right. And so taking the different routes, I see and experience the different beauties of this country. Right. And I literally don't know where I'm going to stop until that afternoon. Right. And so it's now that's big. I'm not asking people to do that, but maybe you'll get there. Right.
Yeah.
But what does that do for you? It shakes you up. It wakes you up. Right. And when you have that energy, I mean, where do you feel it in your body? So this is why we call it mind, body, soul connection, right? Because you shake up the energy and it triggers your body. And Joe Dispenza would call it a Kundalini exercise, right? Because it's the energy from the bottom of your spine going up your spine. That's when you get innovative. That's when you think life is delicious, right? And so you've changed your life. And what are some of the people in your life saying, and who's dropped off and why?
Well, it's funny because most of my family has dropped off, and I don't. My brothers, I don't even talk to them anymore, and a lot of the people, I mean, that we were expected to be at my parents' house every single weekend, and there was always something going on. And 2 or 3 times a week, I'd be over, but over my mom's and doing stuff. Um, and my whole family dynamic, they're still doing it. I'm just not part of it anymore. Um,
So why not?
because I think I'm growing, I'm changing. I don't connect with that. And it stopped during COVID. Um, Plus the fact that my mom has Alzheimer's, so she was diagnosed in 2019, and so the whole COVID stuff. But I think, not connecting with her on a regular basis, and I think I needed to step away from that in order to grow. That needed to be because I wasn't growing. I wasn't going to get anywhere with that mindset and with those people.
And that's what the
So
isolation offered us, right? The
it
opportunity to get
yeah.
away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and that was huge for me. But talking about the doing things afraid, and that was the first book that I was part of. The title of my chapter was Do It Afraid. And one of the things when I started doing all this was I said I said to myself, if someone's asking me to do something, if someone gives me an opportunity, I'm just going to say yes and figure it out. I'm going to just step into this, and I don't care how scared I am. I'm going to just figure it out because there's so many people here in that can help me. And so when I first started working with Linda, she said to me, "Oh, okay, we're gonna go online. We're gonna start interviewing people and interviewing the authors. You want to come on and help me and do some interviews?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." I never interviewed anybody in my life. So I'm over here researching, trying to figure out what questions do I ask. I had a list. I had a list of questions to
Oh
ask
my gosh.
people.
You don't do that anymore, do you?
No, no.
Okay, good.
Because I was trying, and so we got down and we're doing all this stuff, and I never told her that I had never done it. I was just like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then she said, oh, we're gonna go live and do a Facebook. We're gonna be start going on live and doing Facebook lives. I'd never done a Facebook live before. I'd never talked in front of a camera before, and I was cleaning houses, and being on camera or doing any of that was just foreign to me. So it's like, all right, come on, let's go, let's do it. And so and I think it was like 6 or 7 months in, she said something, and I said, I had never done that before. And then I was doing stuff with the website. She asked me if I could go and check something on the website. I had done some website stuff before, but not the program that she was working on. I was like, yeah, I've done that before. I can do that. And I would go in and figure it all out. I'd be up sometimes till 2, 3 in the morning trying to figure it out and doing
There's
it.
this great training tool of information called YouTube. Right? Because I
Yeah,
go there all the time.
right,
Like it's like
right.
how do you do this? Right? Yeah.
So yeah, so and I think it was about like 6 or 7 months in, I said to her, I'd never done that before I met you. I had never interviewed people. And she's like, what are you talking about? She said, I thought you've been doing this for years. I'm like, I never did any of this. I said, I'm just winging it here, Linda. And she was like, oh my gosh, I don't believe that. So, that was when I stepped into this, I was like, you know what? I'm determined, and I'm not going to let anything stop me. And I'm just going to go after this. And because these people are amazing, and I don't want the life that I had before. I want to keep moving forward. And so I keep just stepping into it, and I keep doing things that scare the bejesus out of me. But I'm just like, all right, what's next? What can I do next? And even, being interviewed like this. I remember the first time I was asked to be interviewed and speaking at summits. I had never spoken at a summit before. I called Linda the first, and it was like 6 months into after I had done the book, I got invited to speak at a summit, and I was like, "What's a summit?" And then they're asking me for gifts. What can you give a free gift and a VIP gift? A VIP gift. What's the difference between a free gift and I had no idea what I was doing, but I figured it out as I went along. And I would just reach out to people and say, okay, I know this sounds a little bit crazy, but what does this mean? But that's been my journey for the last 3 years, and it's been so much fun. And you say maybe it's just looking into my purpose, or going after my purpose, or just going with the flow. You talk about the flow, your flow formula, but going with the flow and just doing things that feel right and feel good and feel on my purpose, and saying, okay, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is the direction I'm supposed to be going in. And I'm just going to keep going until, somebody grabs me and pulls me back.
So so I wrote down The Power of Yes. That might be another book for Linda, by the way. That's something that maybe I would contribute to. It's a very powerful word. When people I talk about the power of language, right? Um, it is so important to understand the intention, because part of the formula, the flow formula, is the second part is your intention, right? You can say a word and the intention behind the word is complete BS, right? Completely. You're saying the word because you know you're supposed to say the word. And so it doesn't have the impact that the word would have with the person who is leaning full into the word, right? So this is where affirmations have a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people use affirmations. Well, it's not happening, and I've been doing affirmations. Well, because you don't believe the affirmation. So,
Exactly.
right. But if you believe that, I would counsel against yes, like say yes for a year and don't say no. But if you feel a slight twinge, not a big twinge, a slight twinge, that's probably the universe telling you, go for it. This is going to be so much fun, right? Versus, holy crap, no, wrong road, right? Wrong road. So you learn to discern between the two, because for some people, they feel the same, but the intensity is different. When you
Right.
learn to tap into that, ooh, this is going to be a blast. Just like you said, wow, 3 years of having a blast. Some people don't have 3 minutes of having a blast,
Right. Right.
right? How lucky are you?
Right. But I've been working my butt off.
But having fun.
Yes, yes, but it's a lot of work. I'm
Yes.
up early. I'm going to bed late. Working, and I love it, but I'm dedicated to it.
Right. Right. Because this is something that resonates with you right now.
Right.
Right. And so that's another thing. Um, so we talked about the people that fell out of your life, and you kind of touched a little bit about the people that came into your life. I know for me, the more that I grow, I'm like blown away by who I am. I have as a co-host for stuff. I mean, I'm like, how did you find me? Well, you just came into my sphere. Okay, right, right. This
Yeah.
is about, it is about energy, because you put out a certain energy and people, like, they tune in.
Right.
Right. So, what are some of the amazing people other than Linda who have come into your life since you have made a change for you?
Well, I'll tell you, the first one, even before Linda, was Forbes Riley. And she's the one who, and I don't, if you know who Forbes is, but I had watched her on Home Shopping Network back probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And I saw her doing her little spin gym thing. And I reached out found her on Facebook and sent her a friend request. And she accepted. And so I messaged her on the back channel and said, "Hey, Forbes, I love your spin gym. I bought one, and she came right back to me. And so I was following her on Facebook. And when all this started during the pandemic, she was the one who offered me the opportunity to be in that first book.
See?
she came she came on and she said, I'm doing this. If you want to join, I'd love to have you. And so I was like, all right. So I sent her my money. I joined the first book. I was scared as hell. I had no idea what I was doing. I wrote my chapter and submitted it. And that's where she would say, all right, all right, all the authors are going to meet on Zoom. So that's where I started meeting all these people, because she would have a Zoom call and she would get all the authors together, and she invited me to come in, and I was on these Zoom calls with all these people, and I was like, oh my gosh. And she's on TV doing all these, she was with Jack LaLanne in the juicer back
Oh,
in the
right, right.
day. So she knows all these high powered people, and she was introducing me to them. And so that's how I got started in all this. So I got to say that, she was the catalyst that pushed me forward. And I've spoken with her on the phone. I've emailed her and told her, how much I appreciate everything she does. But that's what she does. She does that now with everybody. But um and that's what kind of opened my world. And then through that book, I met Linda. There's 5 or 6 other people. Sherry Leopold was one of them. Whitney Wiley was one of them. um, Whitney was the first person to ever interview me. When I was part of that book, they came, Forbes came out and said, okay, everyone can be interviewed, and we're going to set up interviews, and we're going to put it out there on Forbes, put it on hers, and the One Habit people put it up on theirs. And so I registered to be interviewed by Whitney Wiley, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so
Wasn't that
cool.
crazy? It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I also wrote down a collaboration. Um, it's been my experience that collaboration does not happen in a network group. Though they say it does not. It's a network group. People are there for business purposes. They say they want to get to know and like you. Um, I personally do, because the type of work I do is very scary. And so you have to really trust me to pick up that phone and say, yeah, I'm ready to take the dive. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Whereas collaboration is like the things that I'm doing with these folks that are coming in my life. That's, I'm doing this, you're doing that. You know what? They kind of match. Can you want to do something together? And we do, right? So with that, you expand your exposure, which is what you did, right,
Mhm.
in that book. So you now work for a business that the cornerstone of that business is collaboration, right? And I will, say that I don't know how I got on that book last year it came out this year, but I wrote last year. Because I've known Linda for a long time, and somehow we reconnected. Somehow, I don't know. Doesn't matter. The universe throws people in front of me, and I go yes. And she said, "Do you want to be in one of the books?" And so I'm like, "Well, I don't know." She goes, "Yeah, you'd be perfect for women with healing gifts," right? I'm like, "Okay, well, let me think about what story because I have so many stories."
Right.
And what did that do for me? Right. And so and I'm telling this story because the listeners find yourself a collaboration group versus a networking group. And here's why. So I wrote that chapter. What did that do? It reignited, because I already had 2 books out. It reignited the writer in me. Well, I now have 2 collaborations published this year, 1 book, Crafting the Flow Formula, published this year, and another single coming out in September that will be 4 this year, because that offer reawoke that desire in me. And it's not to write, it's I have a story to tell. I have an experience to share. All of you do. How do I best do it? And in a book, you offer it up, and when the person is ready for it, they find it. So talk about some of the collaborations, and this isn't for marketing, but I love what she's doing. So we're going to go there. Talk about just a couple, maybe 2 or 3 collaborations that are coming up, and why, number one, those titles were chosen, and why you and Linda feel compelled that these stories need to be told.
Yeah. One of them is Bold Risks, Big Rewards. Um, and actually, that one started out as Go For It, and we changed it to Bold Risk, Big Rewards. Our books kind of evolve, but we want stories of people who took a risk in their life and benefited from it. And so that one, that's one of the ones we have coming up. Another one is the Unstoppable Fearless Female Entrepreneur. It's a mouthful, but we just had our came off our 3-day summit, and that was the focus was this being unstoppable. And I think that women just really need that encouragement to go forth and to be unstoppable. We have Wickedly Smart Women. We have Spotlight on Speaking, where we want speakers to come out and talk about their journey into speaking. But it's all about, and something you said, it's not so much writing, it's sharing your story. Because I have a lot of people that will say, well, I'm not a writer. Well, that doesn't matter. We need your story. You have a story. You have a story that's unique to you. You have a story that no one else can tell. And there's someone out there that's going through what you went through, and you're a little bit higher, or you've gone through it, and they need to hear your story in order to get through what they're going through. And so I love that idea of being able to get people to share their story. I mean, that's kind of what I do in the business, is as the vice president of author development. I get on phone calls with the authors once they register to be on one of our books, and I say, okay, what story you're going to tell? How can I tell me what you're going to be writing about? Let's flesh it out. Let's do an outline. Let's figure out exactly how you're going to tell the story, and get it written. And
I will tell you that my first, and I think Linda talks about it, the first book that I wrote, I signed up for help, and that cost me $6,000 in 2012. So, fast forward a few more years, how much would that cost today?
right.
And I did not get $6,000 worth of support. There's more support with what you guys do. And so I had no clue. I knew what I wanted to write about. And I ended up also buying software, and I used the microphone, and it's, voice to write, recognize. And that was, how old was that? So of course it was cumbersome. and I got the book out. Now, I had this desire, and that one is Authentic Women Have It All. I had a desire for letting people, women in business know, stop being a man. You have so much to offer from your feminine power, right? You have so much more to give that business has enough testosterone. It doesn't need more. It needs you to balance it out. Balance brings power and success, right? And I just felt that that's a story that so many women needed to hear. So the desire to get that story out there is always a way. It's so much easier having someone like Sally to kind of walk you through the process, because to just figure out the outline can be a problem for some people,
Yeah.
right? Right. And then to get into, I know for many of the authors that we saw it in the presentations, they're still attached to the story. So they haven't healed from their story yet. And so their pain is still processing, which is a beautiful thing. It's Tears are beautiful. That means you're washing it out. That's excellent. Um, and so they need someone there. My first book wasn't talking about something that was emotionally attached to me. So I didn't have that issue. But if I did, the people I was going through would not have been there for me. Right. Whereas this group, there are people that you can reach out to that will help you process through the pain that you're going through and through the growing. So it's really important um, to seek out collaborators and supporters. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the other things that your group does for folks who decide to get on board?
The big thing is helping them, like I said, helping them craft their story, helping them get their story out there. We do all the marketing for them. We actually just sit and write their social media posts for them. And so, because that's, I think, a lot of the the people that are in our books are people who are just first time authors or writers, don't know what to say and how to get their message out there.
And you do a
So
beautiful job, by the way.
we
It's
give them
absolutely,
templates and samples and say
yeah.
here, and then we create the social media images for them, and we pull quotes from their chapters. We just make it really fun for them, and that was the thing, because Linda and I have both. I was had been in two of the books before I joined with Linda, and Linda's been in numerous of these collaboration books, so we knew what we liked about them, and we took, I think it was 4 months, once we decided to do this, to sit down, and we still meet almost every day to just talk about, okay, what's what do we like about what the other people did, and what don't we like, and what will we incorporate into our business, and how can we make it so that the authors have fun, and that it's easy, and so it's creating that atmosphere for the authors where they feel connected, they feel part of the community. And what's great about this is we're creating a community of total authors in our books, which right now I think we're at like 433 total people that we've published over the last just 2 years, since it hasn't even been 2 years since Linda and I joined forces. And then within each book is its own little sub chapter or sub community, and bringing them all together and having them connect and having them feel, I think, with COVID, I think a lot of people felt disconnected. And what's great about being part of these collaboration books is you feel now connected to somebody, and you have
And you find
a
what's the word that I'm looking for? I, I don't want to say soul sisters, but you find those people who speak your language,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I have someone from that group that we meet every other week, and to as accountability partners on our writing. Now, I'm no longer writing a book. My book is now with the publisher being edited and blah 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 blah, right? But I'm writing copy for for social media. I'm figuring out how I'm going to promote it. I'm collaborating with someone. And so I still have things to write and lots of stuff to do. Right. And so I use that time to pull it together. And this is someone that I probably would never have met if I hadn't joined the book and hadn't joined, the collaboration effort. Right. And so, yes, you guys do hold networking meetings, but they're done in a way that it's more collaboration than networking.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something that we really, that's not an accident.
Right.
That's something
Right.
that we wanted to make happen as part of this.
So, what's in store for you moving forward, Sally? We've got the power of yes, we've got collaboration, we've got author, writer support. Your business is growing, but what is in store for Sally? What is happening with you personally next? Do you know?
Right now, I'm in the process of writing my own book. I haven't written a book by myself, so I'm working on that. I've got, I don't know, I've got it about a third of the way done. I want to have it done actually by the end of this month. So that's what I'm focused on right now. Going forward, I want to just keep growing. I want to make sure I stay in this flow. I want to make sure I stay going, doing what I'm doing, connecting with all these amazing people and see where it takes me. I'm really open to just having fun and making a difference in the people that I meet, connecting with them and hopefully bringing a little bit of joy into their lives, that making them feel special, making them feel, and that's always been my desire, is to connect with people. I've been was a Sunday school teacher for a number of years, and my faith is really grounded me. And so uh, being of service to others and helping others get through, that's why I think and sometimes it surprises me when I get on the call with authors and they're writing their chapter or they're writing their book, and I have a conversation with them, and afterwards they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was so helpful. I don't know how you do it, but you were able to get me, get me focused and get me on the right path." And I hang up, and I'm like, "I don't know how I'm doing
I
this."
wrote down how you do it. You said it. You're open, right? You see where it takes me. You're curious. You have no expectations.
Right.
Right. So, because when I asked you what's next for you, what came to my mind was, but not goals. Right. And you didn't give me goals. I love it. Right. Because goals give you tunnel
Mm-hmm.
vision.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
you don't see, I'm open to what else is out there
Right.
because you're focused on a goal. So, yes, you'll reach that goal. Yay. What did you miss out on?
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. Right. So, so if people wanted to get in touch with you and maybe know more about what you do, more about action takers, more about what is collaboration all about, how would they do that?
They can go to findsally.com. Make it easy. Findsally.com, and it's kind of like all my links are there to connect with me. There's a free download for the book, which is the book I read, which we published, I don't know, a couple of years ago. That is one of my favorite books that we ever published, and my contribution in there. And then there's a thing for you to schedule an appointment with me. I'd love to talk to you about getting your story out there and being part of a collaboration book.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Sally. And thank you, everyone, for giving me your time on the Empowering Process podcast. And if this resonated with you, or if you have a question because of this, put it in the comments. We'd be happy to get back to you. If you know somebody who could benefit from this conversation, share it out to them. And always, I ask you to subscribe so that you know when there's another episode that's coming up. This is Gail Kraft in the Empowering Process podcast with Sally Green saying thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Sally.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.